You know why Iowa fell short to Nebraska? Or at least one of the reasons why? It's because they kind of looked like Nebraska early in this game. Great time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Big Ten content every single day. Always mash that like button to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses. Nebraska's usually the one that commits penalties, that turns the football over. But it was Iowa that beat themselves in the first half, that got them in this hole. This is an Iowa program that doesn't do this. They don't beat themselves. Yet they found a way to do that in the first half. But I don't know who was dressed in black and gold. It sure as hell didn't look like the Iowa Hawkeyes. I will say that much. Now, another big part of this was injuries. I get it's part of the game. Sam Laporta, their main guy throwing the football, immediately coming to this one. First quarter, 15 minutes on the clock. Sam Laporta's not able to go. Okay, so immediately you take away one of your top receiving threats. Again, in an offense that doesn't throw the ball very well to begin with. So you take out your top guy, and all of a sudden coming into this game, it looked like Iowa might struggle in the passing game. And then all of a sudden, love him or hate him, Spencer Petras kind of comes out early on in this football game. And then maybe the biggest injury of them all was Cooper DeJean. Because when Cooper DeJean goes out of this game, that defensive secondary lost a lot. You saw Nebraska attack the absence of Cooper DeJean early in this one, and that's where they were able to get those big yards, big completions early in this game is when Cooper's not in there. Even when you had Trey Palmer matched up with Riley Moss, other guys kind of got into the flow. You send Trey Palmer in motion, and it's just, man, Cooper DeJean may be one of the best defenders on this entire defense, one of the best playmakers on this Iowa Hawkeye team. Remember, he's a big part of the punt return game as well. You saw what happened with a muff punt there later on. Like, this is, like, his loss had such a trickle-down effect for this Iowa Hawkeye team. Another thing that I want to say, look, I don't know who's going to be the head coach next year. Maybe it looks like Matt Rule appears to be the leader in the clubhouse right now to come to Lincoln. Whatever you do, you got to keep 3 guys in Lincoln. You got to tie him to the goalpost. You got to do something. Mickey Joseph, you got to keep him there somehow. You got to keep Casey Thompson, and man, you better keep Trey Palmer in Lincoln, Nebraska, because I've been saying it all year long. This is a Nebraska football team, especially on offense, that's got talent, especially in the passing game. I've seen it. I've watched it. I've seen it develop, and man, Trey Palmer is developing not only into one of the Big Ten's best wide receivers, one of the best wide receivers in the entire country. I don't think maybe the transfer portal, the transferring situation isn't going to be as big of a deal for those guys. It's keeping Trey Palmer away from the National Football League. Like, that's a big thing, I think, for this Nebraska team going forward. Man, it seems like after Spencer Petras went out of this football game, Iowa lost all confidence in their ability to throw the football, which is kind of a shame because when you look at this game in the second half, you look what Alex Padilla was doing. The more he's throwing the football, he's gaining confidence. Luke Lachey really stepped up in the second half. It kind of makes you scratch your head. It kind of makes you wonder if they threw the ball, if they had confidence in Alex when he got into the game in that first half, what would have been kind of the game in the second half of this game. And then it makes you scratch your head a little deeper and say, well, Alex Padilla kind of looked pretty good when they got a little more confidence in him. What would have happened if he's playing instead of Spencer Petras earlier this season? I don't think too many of the games flip, but it makes you scratch your head. It, at the very least, makes you wonder about the Iowa quarterback situation and the Iowa offense. Man, look, Nebraska's going to come away with a win, and this is a big program win. For Nebraska, whoever comes in, they're going to point to this as maybe a jumping block on like bowl victories do, a jumping block on to next season. But man, look, Nebraska, I know you don't have a good running game, and I know this is a running game that has really struggled, especially later in this season. But you got to try to do kill shots, I think, late in that game. Like, you got to try to, your passing game, that has proven not only throughout this season, but in this game, early in this game, it was the passing game. It was those long, deep passes down the field, especially with what the absence of what Iowa had. Look, I know you want to run time off the clock. I get it. I understand it. Yes, in theory, yes, that's what you should do. But I thought they should have mixed in a little bit more passes. I know some of the Mark Whipple play calling has been head scratching, especially late here down the season, and that's just another example of that. Look, I know Nebraska is going to get credit for the victory, and this is a big win, But this is, look, and I know it's the last game of the season, new coaching staff's going to come in, there's going to be a lot of change, I get that. But when I look at this game, this was just another example of Nebraska not being able to play a complete football game. Okay, you start off, you're running, you're gunning, you're going, you're doing it. You're scoring points, all is great in the world, but all of a sudden, bam, as soon as you get up by 24 points, it's run. It's all of a sudden conservative. It's take the time off the clock. And when you're playing an Iowa Hawkeyes team, and I think another part of why they ran the ball a little bit more, they didn't want to put the ball in the air against an Iowa Hawkeyes team that will take the ball away via the interception. And that's another thing I get. And I know you've got some, but man, you got to put the ball into the hands of the guys that have made the plays. And that was Casey Thompson in that game. You got to trust your defense. Alex Padilla got better as this game went on. Nebraska is going to come away with a victory, a huge victory. Let's wrap it up with this. Iowa is out, likely, of the Big Ten championship game. It's been a roller coaster of a season. I thought this Iowa team was one of the best teams in the Big Ten. They were really putting it together these last few weeks. Things were looking great. This kind of sets things back a little bit, okay? And I know they're not likely going to play for a Big Ten championship. Look, this is still a solid season for Iowa. Did it go the way you wanted to? No. The Big Ten West was sitting right there in your grasp. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered this offseason for the Iowa Hawkeyes. But I believe if Alex Padilla wants to be the quarterback of the Iowa Hawkeyes, I think I saw something in that second half where he can be a good Iowa quarterback. I want to hear what you guys think of this game. What a game it was to end the season for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Leave your thoughts in the comments below about this matchup. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Big Ten Ted. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we'll see you in the next one.